Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Dave Dobbs here. It's the 10th of July, 2019, and I don't want to be the bringer of bad news, really, but we very likely have a massive earthquake coming in on the 16th of July. Maybe on the 15th, maybe on the 17th, but the 15th, 16th, 17th, centering around the 16th, because that's going to be when the full moon occurs. And it's of such massive significance that we take action right now as best we can to inform ourselves how and why this will occur, how we know it will occur, how we can predict this, how I can predict this, and this day so precisely. Because of the nuclear power stations. In 1939, let me just share my screen with you for one shade, because you remember Carlos Ferrada, and I often talk about Carlos Ferrada, and he was the first one really that really kind of offered tangible data, not based on, not that we should ignore in any way our ancient history, but it's, for my part and for my purpose in running, this my channel, I have based. Yes, I look at the Cobram, I look at Zachariah Sitchin, I look at the kind of like the Sumerian text, I look at all these kind of ideas, the Anunnaki and everything else like that. But I built my model on astronomical sightings, and you've seen, you saw my old model, my original model based on the 200-day sightings, and I predicted 13, 14 flybys as a result of using that formula. But that was when we were seeing it, and we had this 4-day anomaly. And I've often talked about this, of how I was always 4 days out, sometimes 2 days out, but most commonly 4 days out. And yet, though the sightings would occur every 198 days, effectively averaging out, they'd always, at the end of, I'd make the prediction. I couldn't just put 198 days and then keep that going, because it would fall out of time. And yet, every 2 years, I would have to deduct. Every 2 years, or every year, when a sighting came back, it would obviously be 200 in a year. 200 days, 365 days in a year. So, that's a total in 2 cycles gives you 396 days, and so it's more than a year before you come around. But every one of those points, I would have to deduct 4 days. And if you notice that Carlos Ferrada predicted a massive earthquake on the 24th of January. 1939, and he said it would occur in Chile, and I go through this a lot, and it's so important you stay with me on this right now, because it's going to really help you understand. But he said it would occur on the 24th, but it happened 4 days before he said it would happen, right where he said it would happen, exactly what he said would happen. And he'd been following Planet X, seeing all the same things that we're seeing now. And piecing this thing together himself. And he obviously struck this 4-day anomaly. Now, what's actually occurred is that I'll go into the aspects of the orbital mechanics a bit later. What I really want to show you here and now is that there's 2 fundamental reasons why his prediction was 4 days out, or there's 2 possibilities, should I say. There's the first possibility of this 4-day anomaly, which has arisen as a result of us finally understanding that these twins, as Alex Lujen often calls them, the twins, and we've seen various shots of what we're calling Nibiru, and there's this other one. And what I've come to realize is that these things are timed in such a way as we experience a sighting every 198, 200 days. And the orbital mechanics of that in itself is utterly cosmic. If we're talking about two different objects that have this odd cycle of alignment, and we see the same cosmic kind of alignment with our own moon, the fact that it does one complete cycle in its own axis in exactly the same time it takes to do one rotation around the Earth. Now, these type of anomalies are utterly precise and cosmic, and they smack of intelligent design. They just smack of intelligent design. And so does what we're seeing with these twins. These two twin tail objects, which have been massively affecting the Earth since. Well, we can definitely say, obviously, Fukushima and the big earthquake before on the 27th of February 2010, which was also in Chile, same as Carlos Ferrada's prediction. But what was interesting is if I just share my screen here, let me just go on to here, and I might have to stick my glasses on for this. Excuse me. I'm trying to get my glasses off because I've been told that the glare of my glasses disturbs from some viewers, and so I'm trying to keep it off because, you know, we've got a serious issue coming up here. But what I wanted to do was go to let's go to my Finder and share that, and let's open that out, and we'll come back to these in a shake. But there it is, 1939, 20th of January, 1939. And notice where, I'll have to take my finger away and let that disappear in a shake. But notice where the moon is there. It's directly in alignment. Now, his timing could have been right, but what happens is that for some reason, the moon amplifies this. If I come forward to the 16th of July, notice where the moon is there and the alignment. Now, the big earthquake we just saw in California was that just went by. Wasn't a full moon. It was a new moon or a black moon. You know, so the moon was exactly on the other side of the Earth, directly between the sun and the Earth. And this alignment, and possibly, you know, could this Mercury position coming into alignment also exacerbate this situation? Who knows? But we have to remember, if I go forward now, another one, so we can see clearly that we're going to get a massive earthquake without any shadow of a doubt around about the 16th of July. And it's most likely going to affect California and Canada on that Pacific coastline there. It's going to be further up because we're not dealing with what we've been seeing for all these different flybys that I've shown you. The greater majority of those, not really, about half and half, but the ones that have been most affecting us has been this inner orbiting twin tail object. And I'll go to some of the sightings in a sec to try and elaborate on that a little bit more. But we can see that there's going to be an alignment on the 16th. You remember, this thing is literally well, we'll come to its movements in a shake. But we've got on the 16th of July. We know we've got a massive earthquake and potential tidal anomalies that are going to come with that earthquake. And it's going to be relatively big, but it's not going to be as big, I imagine, as the 1st of August, where you see on the new moon or the black moon, whichever you choose to see it, how you choose to phrase it, I suppose. But the 1st of August, I can imagine is going to be considerably bigger, but I can imagine that the 15th of August is going to be even bigger. And then, of course, this thing's going to this furthest orbiting object, which is now the aspect of this system which is going to start affecting Earth. It's affecting the northern hemisphere of Earth, as the inner orbiting ring has been mostly affecting the southern hemisphere. And so we've got the 15th of August. We know we're going to get a big earthquake. Possibly the 30th if it runs as late as that. And I've got here the 28th of September. And the reason I've got the 28th of September here is because that was, of course, when we had, do you remember I'd made the video about a week before, and you'll see it in my videos, and it says oceanic anomalies imminent. And that was because of this alarm. I knew that was going to occur because of where the system was. You see, the system, in my opinion, is, well, before I get into too much confusion here, what's the next date? So I've got the 25th of December, 2019. So it's going to pass us now, sort of, go arc over the ecliptic plane. Not that it really is an ecliptic plane, I'm afraid, but it's going to, from this perspective, from this 400-year model, the standard model that we all use, which is totally out of date, which doesn't represent the true picture of our solar system or the binary system that we actually live in at all. But nonetheless, if we're to try and demonstrate it on this outdated system, it would basically pop up through the ecliptic plane, which is what it's doing now, coming through the ecliptic plane around about the August position, and then it's going to arc over and come back down and cut through in December, January. And it's going to be very close to us on both aspects of that pathway. Very close now, very close in December, January. And so we've got the full moon on the 25th of December. And it's going to be very close to us then. So we know we're going to get big effects around about that time. Possibly I've got the 12th of December here, possibly before then as well. And then we've got the 11th of Jan. And then ironically, the 24th of Jan. Now, we'll know more about which one of those will specifically be the most intense by the intensity of what happens now and what happens from now to the 15th of August. That's when I'm imagining we're in a big part of this. And so what else have I got here? You see, this is you see what I've got here. We've got the 5th of August 2011, and we've added 200 days to the 5th of August, and then repeated that 20 times. Well, more than 20, 16 times here actually, but we don't need to see the remaining 4. We just focus on these for one check at a second. And I know that many of you have seen these before and everything else like that, but you'll notice that. Do you remember when I came out to America? You'll see the 13th of August 2017. That's when I flew out to America. And the flight, I said there was going to be a flyby around then, and it came in on the 17th. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That 4 days again. And then if we had the 1st of March, and the next item was the 1st of March, and we did have some crazy sightings around the Turkey Report, 7 Spalding, got some incredible shots, and of course January, March, April, May, and then May the 4th, obviously Kilauea started erupting, and then we had the big sighting on the 17th of June, which absolutely threw everything. And it made me finally realise So I started piecing it together. You see, we could only follow the breadcrumbs. This 200 days, what he presented to us, that wasn't able to predict these flybys, but the proximities were always different, and so it was so difficult to calculate. But then finally we worked out it was 198 days because of the big June sighting, and because of what happened in Kilauea. It was going all the way around the sun. It wasn't just occurring in one corner, if you like, of the solar system. It was also going all the way around. This twin-tailed object was seemingly going all the way around the sun. But then we had this 4-day anomaly that just didn't add up in this movement. And finally, when I started developing using a more advanced this sandbox, universe sandbox package that enables me to build these 3D models and put the solar system in motion and add a binary twin and see how it moves, was I able to start realizing it was 2 objects. And finally, we have the biggest view now of our solar system. This has not just revealed the Planet X system, this has revealed the conical shape of our solar system, and it's also revealed the conical shape of the Planet X system, and it's also revealed the way in which they move through each other. And effectively, they don't really pass the ecliptic at all. None of these objects really punch through the ecliptic at all. That's even more. Well, there's only 2 objects that really do, and they're the twin-tail objects that we've been observing. And when they cut through, they are the points of crossing, and there's 2 of them. Parvati and Shiva. That's what I see. I mean, maybe Jesus and Mary. I don't know what you want to call them, maybe just the twins. But we have to kind of like, we've got to kind of, well, you can see, just going back to this point here, we see the 17th of, so I'd said, hi Roxy, I'm just here making a video. Are you okay? Yeah. Excuse me, I'm just chatting away. So I'd flown to America on the 13th of August 2017, and then we'd had the next sighting on around about the 1st of March, and then the 17th of September 2018. Now notice again, the 17th of September, what date was the, you see, we experienced the earthquake on the 28th. So it came into view by that clock it came in before, do you remember? It came in early, around about the 5th or the 6th of September, and it was filmed over India. But the earthquake occurred on the 28th. But my model, based on the 198 200-day cycle, brought it to, you can see where it comes out. That's just adding 200 days from the 5th of August 2011. So it brought us to the 17th of it gave us the 17th of September 2018. Then we had obviously the 5th of April 2019, and we had lots of crazy sightings around then. And then we've got the 22nd of October. Now, the reality is that we will likely have a sighting around that point, but these are when we see it, not necessarily when we experience it. But the pattern that we're getting, because of this 198-day sighting or anomaly, if that is correct, does this 2-planet system throw all of that out of sync? It really might. Maybe nothing will happen on the 16th of August. But the maths of it would suggest that actually what happens is this drops back exactly 1/13. This outer object drops back 1/13 of its cycle every 1 calendar year, because it's 396 days in its cycle, and we're obviously 365, and that is exactly 1/13 more than Earth's cycle round the sun. And that's another anomaly, which is just, it's cosmic. It's utterly cosmic. And so let's just stop the share, and we're just going to go briefly over to, I'm going to start another share and just go over to, and just, you remember the, this was early December, I believe, and you can literally see the asteroids rolling in space. And then you literally, then we saw all the flybys, and then, obviously Krakatoa blew its top off and we were told it was a mudslide. Notice that there was also, that happened right on the, I can't remember if it was a new moon or the full moon, when Krakatoa blew its top off. But this is the alignment of the moon here is so key to this. And so you can really navigate around this if you choose to see it. This wasn't even considered a new active. It's not listed on the volcanoes that went off, nor is Kilauea on Hawaii when that went off. Notice that this last went off in the 1980s, just like Kilauea went off in the 1980s. And notice that, in the 1980s, 1986, on the 26th of April, 1986, that was when an earthquake occurred. It was actually in the Himalayas, but it was on the same day as Chernobyl. So we know that when this thing erupts, there's a massive effort to downplay the amount of volcanic activity. There's a massive effort to downplay the fact that it's not global warming or solar minimum or any of these things. It's simply, right now, it is Pacific boiling, which is affecting the climate. All the volcanoes around the Pacific Basin are going off. 29 new volcanoes in Antarctica, the entire Emperor Hawaiian Seamount chain, 4,600 kilometers of volcanoes are underwater, with sort of like with the biggest volcano in sort of like on the Kamchatka Peninsula at the very north of it, in that Russian tip that comes down to the Pacific Basin, and the largest volcano on the planet, which I guess is Kilauea. I'm not too sure which is the biggest volcano, but in Hawaii, and that's 4,600 kilometers underwater of volcanoes connecting those two massive volcanoes that are all erupting, boiling the ocean from underneath. We've got the ocean is we've got Pacific boiling, the temperature is going up massively. And then we had, the sighting, Steve Olson put those up. That was a relentless maverick. These were all shots. You can see the dates there. I mean, look at that sighting. I mean, what do you do with that? How can you deny that? How could you imagine if you could just sit and do nothing, knowing that was going on, and not lobby them to shut down the power stations, knowing that when this thing comes by, it ruptures power stations. It shakes the ground so badly that if there's no nuclear power stations, it will go into meltdown. It will go into meltdown. Look at that. How many sightings have I given you? Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. It's just, and so let's just look again at the orbital mechanics then. Well, here we just stopped here on, this was working out the inner ring, because we've been thinking of calculating as one planet, but now we've just so we can just establish it, and I'll show you in a model what this means. But last time I said it was 123 days, and I said that wrong, and it was 321 days. And so we have the inner ring. Forget this image over here. That's not relative. We just did that to work out the proportions. But it's the inner ring is 321 days, and the outer ring, the outer furthest orbiting twin tail object is 396 days. We know that now. So let's go on to Carlos Ferrada's model of just the solar system, how we were originally seeing it, as he put it forward in his kind of model. And this is how we've been seeing it. And this, of course, doesn't give. We can see that planet X here has got motion coming up through our solar system, but it's coming through a system which is completely static. Think about that. Think about that. It's just utterly ridiculous. It's an utterly ridiculous notion. And, you know, but this was the model that he used to calculate the 24th of January, 1939. You know, and I often wondered how he got to this. And of course, this is really what it looks like. And notice he's not actually crossing the ecliptic as it comes up. It follows the same orbital track going round, but it never really crosses the ecliptic as such. So let me now go on to the last piece of this. You know, because these whole sightings of Jupiter, which has basically come so close, or it's not that it's this big, and there's reasons why it was seen like this around this time, but let's come forward to this model here. And when I'm here, you can see, if I just move that out of the way, we'll move that down there. So this is, note that this is having the sun moving south. And realistically, we consider the sun moving north. I don't truly know which way it moves, as I've often said. But this model actually, whether it goes up or down, it changes things in various different ways, but also it doesn't change things in that many ways. And so I keep this like this because the final part of this big puzzle will be pinpointing the exact direction the sun is actually going, which has been so difficult because of the movements. And this inner ring here is what we've been experiencing, causing, you know, Fukushima here and big earthquake that occurred on the 27th of February 2010, and obviously round on this side as it passed through this, as it's affected us over here at a later stage in its orbit and our orbit, you know, like the Kilauea and the Kilauea volcano going off on the 4th of May, 2018 or 19? 2019. Was it? Yeah, beginning of this year, or no? It's 2018. It was the year before, wasn't it? Is that correct? Yeah, it was the year before, because we just didn't know what was going to happen, and we'd realised that Kilauea was the occurrence of Kilauea was right in the midpoint here, which means that this thing had actually passed. This inner ring had actually passed, and it done its cycle completely. And so now we are experiencing this ring, and that's what we're coming into now. And as it gets closer and closer, because it's wider, this aspect of it here, whether the sun is moving up or down, it makes no odds really, in terms of we know which way it's coming from. This object's coming down here, going to come round and then come back up here. And as it comes back up here, it's going to potentially, as it comes towards, if you like, from this perspective, or looking at this diagram, this side, our side of the sun here, or which would be down here, so apologies, as our side of the sun down here, it has the potential of blocking out the sun, causing an eclipse on the December-January point. And like I say, we'll get a better idea of where it's going to affect us here by the intensity of where it affects us here. And I'm of a mind that the intensity is going to happen well, the most intense earth changes we saw last year around that time, the biggest tsunami was, you know, I can't remember now, just what date was that? Was it the 23rd of September or the 17th of September? I can't remember which one it was now, but it occurred with that alignment. I think it was a full moon. And I just had it up, so you can just scroll back if you're curious. But it's going to be one effectively one complete calendar month, 1/13 of a cycle of its cycle earlier, in my opinion. I might be so wrong about this because it's been such a complicated thing to try and determine. But the mass of it would say, if I go back, it's going to be somewhere, you know, the strongest point in theory should be around, you know, right in the midpoint between the 15th of August and the end of August. Which is going to be like between the full moon and the new moon, basically. And then we come over to this point here, this December. So this point here, this December, sort of the, you know, the Earth would be coming around here, and this would be between us and the Sun, or this would be our side of the Sun here, and this would be far side of the Sun, and vice versa over here. And this point here, we imagine it's going to be in December, January. And so let's stop the share. And we should go back to, we're going to stop here. Uranium enrichment targets broken in further breach of nuclear deal. Now, I find that really interesting because obviously, you know, NATO is going to do everything in its power to start a massive war now, to lower our vibration at this time, to make sure there's multiple reasons why it wants to do this, but it needs an enemy. And Iran isn't attacking anyone. They're just trying to sell their oil and carry on with business as usual, except they don't want to use the US dollar. And I think that's fair enough, you know, but we had this story. Powerful, that was the 7.1. Notice that, like I say, fell on the, was it a new moon or a full moon? So we're just coming up to the full moon, so that would have been a new moon, which is interesting. So there's this alignment. And then we come forward to don't mind me, it's all right, I'm just talking to the camera here. We come forward to this story here. Turkey, $72 million worth of nuclear weapon material found in traffic stop. Now that's, you notice that also, if I open that up, you'll see that there was 18.1 gram haul was found in a car. Now, if this is weapons grade, we're talking about plutonium. We're talking about the enrichment of uranium into plutonium. You know, that's 18 grams is worth 72 million. But this story, it tells something else of why we should be very, very concerned, really, and really pull in the highest help right now to help humanity through this, because you can see what could be unfolding here. This could be a massive setup. And we know that, you know, Carlos Farada's prediction in 1939, massive war, Second World War, starts exactly the same time. We know as soon as this came by, Fukushima went bang, we blew a nuclear power station up, and we just watch it blowing up. We watch this thing fly by exactly the same time. And what does David Cameron do? He drops bombs on Libya. He doesn't drop aid on Fukushima or focus on that. His sole mission is to use that as a massive smokescreen and try and start another world war, invade Africa. And we have to think what that story really means and what they might be planning in their crazy scheme of things, because they're going to be desperate to start a war and keep the vibration as low as they possibly can during this transit. And so we've got to watch that, and we've got to invite the highest help in right now and make it possible for that help to assist on every level possible. And the way you can do that, probably more than anything else, is kind of focusing on is kind of focusing on where you position yourself in this. Are you someone who just sits on the fence, who just watches this and thinks there's nothing you can do? Or is there something you can do? Could you? Maybe there's nothing we can do. Maybe we've just got to sit back, and when these earthquakes go off, just watch nuclear reactors go off. Maybe that's the best we can do. Maybe that's what we're here to do, just to do nothing. Let's just come out of that share. I think I've just... There we go, I've just come out of that share. So, what can we do? Where do we stand? I'm just going to pause that for one shake. Okay, sorry about that. I was getting a bit distracted then with Roxy coming in, and I thought I'd pause it and start off again there. And I thought in that little pause, because I mentioned Alex Lujen's name earlier, and I'll take these glasses because I can see the glare. I can't see a thing really. I can make out basic things, but but really focusing is difficult. But Alex Lujen, you know, he often refers to these two objects as the twins, and I love his research as well. I love his work, and he's ironically just I put my glasses on, and so I can actually take you through it, so I can see what I'm pointing at. And I'm just going to go to, where would I have it? There, you should be seeing that. You should be seeing. This is crazy. Alex posted it with his Planet X channel. He published it on the. So this was published on July the 5th, 2019. Thank you for all your prayers and support. Take care. God bless. And what's interesting about this shot, you know, it could be anything and everything else like that, but it's ironic that we're expecting to see this thing coming in right now. Let me just play a little bit of this. Let me just take the sound, stop the sound in a sec. And this is what I'm expecting to be coming in. Notice, look at the speed it's moving. We've never seen this thing moving at this speed. And this might be a real indicator. If we can get more information from, I'm hoping I'm going to get more information from Alex on this as to exactly what direction this was, what time it was, because this is an image that could really tell us enormously about the overall. This is the second object. This is the furthest orbiting object of the Planet X system, in my opinion. This is coming in now. And you can see, you know, I'm of a mind that actually we are actually, as it's coming in, the reason it appears to be going so fast is because we are moving in the, if you like, adjacent to it. We're moving kind of in the opposite direction of it, in a sense. It's that, well, are we? It's just that, well, you know, to be honest with you, until I know the times and the dates of it, and then we just start putting that into a model, into a model, we might be able to start telling. We might be able to start getting a much clearer indication of what the way it moves. So I just wanted to bring your attention to that, because it is a phenomenal shot. It's what we're expecting to see. There it is in all its glory. So let me stop that share now and come back to, I'll take those off again and save that glare. I don't really need to do any more screen sharing right now. I think you've seen it. That was amazing, amazing, amazing shot, Alex. It was just the most absolutely incredible shot. And well done for all your work, for just keeping it up there, keeping it going. I know it's, you know, it looks like we're getting so few views. It seems that only about 2,000 people in the world are even interested in this. If I was to look at the views on my channel, which I'm of a mind that my, you know, when you think of when I had about 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 subscribers, I was getting, you know, 100, 200,000 hits sometimes for a video. And suddenly I've got a lot more subscribers, and apparently only 2,000 people are even vaguely interested in. By judging by the views, something which is, it must seem utterly Hollywood to a lot of people. I don't know if anyone's seen the new Godzilla movie. I mean, that's very, very telling, isn't it? You know, three-headed dragon born out of a volcano, travels in a tornado, a cyclone, a massive, massive, massive storm. And what's very interesting about that is the organization, Monarch, that wants to stop extinction, and ironically has the same logo as Extinction Rebellion. And they want to stop the apocalypse, the annihilation of humanity from its own chaos and craziness of just driving this petrodollar and using this kind of like this fiat-based currency to drive the whole world into absolute destruction. And they get their solution, Monarch's solution to this, is to unleash the monsters, these great monsters, this great dragon and Godzilla. And notice Godzilla is, it looks like when you see it, you think, oh, it's a dinosaur, but actually it lives in the ocean and is ocean bound. It's a massive reptile. King sort of thing. And Monarch is its keeper. It has control over it. A lot of interesting messages in that movie. But that's the message I want to really come to now. You know, is how this really affects us. And we can see, I've through my own process of writing Laughing Gas and process I went through in my own writing process, is a process of tracking intention. And tracking intention is tracking yourself back to the power, the real divine power, the beautiful, blissful power of being you when you are in your true power, you're in your now. You're completely present. You're not waiting on something in the future or regretting something in the past. You have arrived at the position of now. And for many people to arrive to the position of absolutely now, being completely present in their body, requires moving through that noise we have in our past and in our future, all the things we've got to do and should be doing and should be getting done, and all the things we did and we shouldn't have done, and we could have done better, and regrets and everything else like that, and this kind of juggle between these two, past and future, and to try and stay in this here and now. And sometimes to arrive through this here and now, we've got to go through that interference that seems to exist both sides of our presence, this future and past, that draws us away from the here and the now, which is very powerful. And sometimes to gain access to that, we've got to go through that noise. We've got to go through that past and that potential future, and arrive at the all powerful now. And tracking intention is one way of doing it. It is one way of doing it. Is when you find yourself, because you know this has this electromagnetic effect on our, if you like, astral bodies, and it pulls on them. And that's why when you feel the moon, and it comes, it's pulling on your soul, and your soul is actually almost floating up. And the only thing that's holding on to that soul is the heart. It's rooted into the heart. And when it's pulled, you feel that uncomfort, and you want to, you go to feel that space, but there's all that shit that's either side surrounds your now, that stops you getting. You see it as future and past, and these thoughts about all these narratives about what happened and what could happen. But your focus is on your heart, because it's being pulled. And so you address that and to look at that. So we get very emotional around the time of the full moon and the new moon, because of this electromagnetic turbulence caused by the moon's alignment with the sun. It's a big surge. And this planetary passage, which is now beginning, will have the same but a much more amplified effect on your soul, and it will pull at your soul. And the story they're trying to throw at you is to try and make it very, very difficult for you to access your now without going into all sorts of different types of processes in your kind of mental and emotional state, that makes it very difficult for you to access the now, because of anger and frustration and fear and anxiety, and the worst of all, shame. Can you imagine if nuclear reactors go off now, and you didn't do anything, and you didn't shout it out, and you carried that, you knew that, why didn't I do something? It was so obvious. It was so obvious. The massive earthquake that occurred on the day Chernobyl occurred, the massive earthquake that occurred the day Fukushima occurred, that's 4 nuclear reactors. Each and every one of you out there knows someone, or you yourself, are experiencing cancer. Young people that are going way before their time. We are all carrying that. Many of you know 10, some of you know hundreds. You know, I've had 2 girlfriends that have died of cancer way before their time. My mother, you know, and it takes us. You know, I felt myself going there just as I went into it, going in and getting pulled out of the presence of my now. When I come out of the presence of my now, I become unstable. And so the way you can access that heart space through this turbulent period is to track, become a tracker. You have to track back to who you truly are. You have to You have to remember why you do the things that you do. Have you got any bad intentions? Have you got any bad intentions for anyone right now? Do you want nuclear reactors and terrible things to happen on this earth? Do you want all these terrible? Do you want World War III? Do you want suffering on this plane? No. 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 That's right, isn't it? You don't want to see anything bad happen. See, we just tracked back to some powerful intention just doing that. And each one of your little experiences that snags you, maybe you did something bad. You have to go back to that place, and it takes you, and you can't go to the now because you can't get past that experience. But you're going to have to. You're going to have to. You have to get past this. You have to go through it. It's like a wave. See it as a wave. When a wave comes, you can. It's in a piece of energy that's it's energy flowing, and these thought narratives that plague us and bring us down, they're just moving through us, and they will pass, and we can just move through them. So when you approach something you've done in the past, experience it. It could have been something terrible. I don't know what you might have done. Or I don't know what might be. I don't know what you're regretting, or what pains you to go into that now. But move through it. It's just a wave. It's just a wave that when you get to the other side of it, you can have a word with yourself and say, I shouldn't have done that. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that anymore. I want to be something better. And come into that space. Mend the situation, own it, and mend it. And track yourself back to the best possible you at every time. And if you find yourself with harboring really horrible thoughts to someone, really question where they come from. Own them. Justify them in your own head, or make allowances, have a word with yourself. But here and now is where the challenge is going to be right now. Staying here and now. So that's this message anyway. Tracking intention, staying present. Stay really present in this. Focus on understanding your intentions and tracking your own intentions. Move through each. It's going to be a desperately emotional time. It's going to be a desperately emotional time. But it's just a wave. It's just there. It's going through you. Be present in it, and it cannot touch you. It cannot touch you. Track through it one by one. If it scares you, be present. And experience it and do the best you can. But try and be present. Follow the breath. Go through the sadness. Way through it. Comes the rich, creamy now each time it comes up, and however it comes up. It's just you're in a massive story which is desperate for you to make some colossal mistakes and we don't have to make these terrible mistakes. All of those out there that have power to stop these nuclear power stations, or put word out that we need to shut them down through these, whilst we know we're experiencing quakes. Don't carry that after. you know, you've got to do something. Maybe if you're a video maker, put a video up and say, shout, Dave Dobbs has made a prediction. Throw it back onto my court, so at least I'm the one who looks like the fool. If this thing doesn't come in, you understand the pressure this puts on me, putting a prediction out there, or a calculation, whatever you want to call it. It's not a prediction, really. It's a calculation based on the orbital mechanics that I have displayed since, well, you've seen my model and how it's advanced and moved. But do something to help us. And when you do something to help us, you can say, Dave says it's going to happen. Dave Dobbs, blah, blah, blah. Shout it out there. You know, I'm going to go down. I'm going to look like a right idiot. But I've been fortunate with all my flybys that they've all flown by exactly when I said. And it's not that I've not been wrong with any of them. The only thing I've been wrong with is I missed one. And that was, of course, the 17th of June, 2017, that enabled us to finally update the model to such a way that it gave us this 3D understanding of the conical system that we're really in. So we've just been, it's like this thing has been dropping us breadcrumbs. It's like this thing has been there deliberately set up so you would see this 200-day breadcrumb trail that would, if you followed it long enough, it would open and expand into a greater consciousness of the realm that we are living in. You know, it's been a journey. It's turned my life upside down. And no doubt all those who have followed this has turned many of your lives upside down. I struggle with my daily life. I really do. People say, Dave, how come you're so clear on your videos? Such a mess. Outside them, all over the place outside them. So indecisive and just trying to sort of like, you know, it's, and financially, my God, you know, and when I did that crowdfund last year or in 2000, you know, went out, I said, look, I could sit down and number crunch this, but it's going to take some time, you know, and I did that crowdfund, you know, GoFundMe wouldn't release the money to me. Well, they released some of it and then they just blocked it. No word, no one I can write to or anything. You know, it's just like, so I can't even do sort of crowdfunding and that sort of stuff, but I don't mind that, you know, I've just had to do work. I've just had to kind of like stop making videos. But then I really feel that to the large extent, I've kind of, it's time, I've got to have a bit of me time now in all of this. Because I know it must seem like my life is quite, you know, I choose to live in a caravan most of my life, you know, and so do without the expenses and have, and live, you know, I live a simple existence, you know, and it's when I'm just about to move on to a boat, a little bit of help. My mum and I have kind of brought it together, and so I've had to move on a boat, and I thought, because I'm of a mind because of what I've seen in my own experiences. You know, I always wanted where John and White Cloud and Sister Anna and Running Water and my father now. I know I see him on the other side, but I see him when I give healing. He comes and joins me now. And that realm that we build on a high level, I've seen that. And it's painful to see that. And it's beautiful to see as well. I always wanted to see, I always wondered where they were, where their realm was, where they spoke from. So this message really comes from them. So I've been very fortunate in one sense, but obviously it's a heavy thing to see a picture, but it's a picture that's been given to me over a very long period of time, and I've been following a very long breadcrumb trail. That was my father. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring a tear, but I see this realm that we build, and we build this higher realm with the things that we love in this realm. And so I thought, you know, I want to work on I've only got a caravan on the other side, I guess. Yeah. And I thought I'd really like to have a boat on the other side. I can remember when my mum first told me, I'm sorry I'm waffling a little bit now, but it's just to try and help you make that connection to a higher space through this process. I can remember when I was writing Laughing Gas, I went through lots of different things. I mostly wrote in India, and locked myself away up in the mountains, even though it seems like an expensive thing. You know, you can fly to India on some fly to India for like 350 quid, and then jump on a bus for like a tenner and go up to the Himalayas, go up to kind of Manali, where some of the finest marijuana in the world is grown. And I was writing memoirs of a hash fudge salesman, and I thought that would be the perfect place to go and write it. Even though I wrote Laughing Gas, you know, I wrote Laughing Gas as a means to kind of like promote the memoirs of it was a kind of like a pre-book to try and get a kind of like as a taster to get a publishing deal for Memoirs of a Hash Fudge Salesman. So putting that out there, by the way, if anyone's a publisher out there and would like to sort of think, well, this might be an interesting book, so I've been working on that. But when I was out there, I did 2 years up in the mountain. You could live, like, say, next to nothing. Like, I was renting a house on the edge of this cliff up in the Himalayas for like literally £20 a month. It's like $30 a month to live in a palace in winter. But you're there in winter on your own. There's only the kind of like the Tibetans, the Tibetan refugees that kind of came over the border, you know, and they've got their little Momo stores and that sort of stuff. And it's just, you've got the hot springs up in the mountain. It's just idyllic. You cannot believe that you get to go to this most incredible place. And that's where I opened my doors, up there in that process, up there. And that's why I had a really big, and that's where the kind of real spiritual aspect came, of locking myself away up there. But I'd started doing all the stuff that I was doing with ayahuasca, but I was learning a different type of practice to access that directly without using ayahuasca, and processes that you could trigger that. And then when I was down in the mountain, when I was down in Goa, so I do one year up in the mountain, then I do a sort of like a season down in Goa, and just rent a little house way away from the beach, like it's really cheap places again. You just go way inland and that sort of stuff, and get yourself a little motorbike, and sort of like for sort of like $300, and you sort of like, you know, these aren't expensive life choices. Most people go to India because they've got no money. Their homeland is just too expensive for them to be creative. So Goa's just full of I mean, it's got a lot of money going to it now, obviously, but its heart is its creative flow that can afford to live there, which is what makes it so beautiful and so fascinating. Just full of just incredible talent. Incredible talent. And anyway, I was on a beach. My mum had told me she'd got breast cancer, and so it was about 2010, 2011, and that she was going to have a big operation. And I said, look, I'm going to come back. And she said, sweetheart, you know, I just don't need you here right now. It would be so nice if we could have a little chat every day. But she says, other than that, she's going to go to the hospital, and then I've got all my mates going to come around. She goes, if I just have a little chat from you and know you're happy and that sort of stuff, and we can just have a little chat. So I was just like, and I was so in my writing stream, and I said, well, look, yeah, she really did. She was in really good form. You know, it was just like, there wasn't, you know, she got so many mates in Glastonbury. She's like the guru of Glastonbury. You can imagine, for all her channeling and all that sort of stuff. But I was in this euphoric state in Goa, and with my writing, and my writing was just going, and I was more working on that stage in the memoirs of a hashbox salesman, and so it was good. It got lots of fun bits, and I was kind of in a good space. And I just said one day, I was just walking back to my house, and I'd taken a massive surfboard. I'd taken this like 10-foot surfboard with me to India. It was a right nightmare to get it there. Total nightmare to get it there. Total nightmare to get it back. But because it wasn't allowed on the plane, so I had to kind of like check in and do all that sort of stuff, and then just walk with it to the kind of like point where I'm getting on the plane, and they were like, "But your bag's on the plane," and da 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 da. And I, anyway, I managed to get it on, and I was surfing, and I was doing, I'd write, and then I'd go down and I'd surf a little bit. And people say there's no surf on Arundel Beach in Goa, but I tell you what, around about the full moon, you get these sets coming in. It's really gradually inclined, so you get these beautiful, smooth waves that are just so perfect for kind of not such good surfers like myself. Anyway, I was just walking back, and I said, "Is there oceans on the other side, on this second Earth that we're all building into, that we're all creating in this room? Is there oceans?" And just put it out there, because I was just in this space, and I put it out there in my writing, because that's how I was communicating. And then I would get the answers in dreams and different things in different ways, and it would just come through me in different fashions. And the next morning, I got up. It was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day, and I walked straight down to the beach. It was just the most blissful, perfect day. The sea was perfect. Everything was perfect. And I looked up, and I saw a spaceship. I saw what looked like a dumpy plane, like it was a short, dumpy plane. I was like, "That's a weird plane." And then this plane just kind of like tilted to my direction, and so what looked like dropping down towards me. And I was like, "My God, that thing's coming down." And as I watched it come down, it just suddenly, it was just literally coming down towards me. I was like, "Oh my God." And it just stopped. And I was just like, and the door opened, and I found myself jumping on, and there was a headset on the wall inside this spaceship, and I took the headset and I put it on, and I woke up in my bed. We all have a heart, and we all have a link to that divine space. You're all building into that divine space. If you're here on Earth in a human body, you didn't have to fight for this body or hack into this body. It was your divine right. It was given to you. If you're here, you are linked to that same space. You are of that same space, that second Earth, is whatever you want to call it. It all feeds in via the heart to that space. And that which is interfering and hacking into Earth is trying to break that space and trying to break the purpose of this planet, which was this divine link to this higher realm that these lives give us access to. We build this higher realm with our lives here, and when we're ready, we can go into that realm. But until we are ready to go into that realm, we exist in astral realms, which are our own versions of our own creations that aren't always ready to join, if you like, a bigger matrix. And most of you, as have already well and linked up to this bigger matrix, where do you think you go when you sleep? All that time. You go to another realm that you're building here. And so you're constantly liaising already to and fro. And in the big message for me was that we've been what we call the ego. We have been working with our egos. whilst in this room. So we've been multitasking, we've been building our high level, but our work also is facilitating the help, the assistance, or the transit of the ego into the space of having a life of its own again, rather than having to hack into other sentient beings like us. And we get trapped between the two, our higher self and our ego self, and we are like rabbits staring into the headlights, transfixed, not even knowing that who we are, or that the true presence of our own being over the noise of our mental hacks. And so we can be in a place of non-action. And we've got to try and come out of our head, that story, see what's really going on. Follow that breath back to our hearts. Track why we do the things we do. What is it that you want to do now? What is it you want to achieve now? Can you engage? Anyway, I think people are coming, so I think it's a good place to finish this. So thanks again for your time.